Hello, everybody, and welcome to this very special episode of the Deadliest Warrior podcast. I am your host for the first half of this episode, Matt Davis. I am joined by my beautiful colleagues,
Craig Taylor.
And I'm your captain for the day, Lucas.
and we have Brendan, our Viking correspondent, working on the ones and twos. How are we doing today, gentlemen? It is a few days before Halloween, and we're all in the spirit, Deadliest Warrior style.
For the record, I want to say we did not plan for this to be the Halloween episode because we don't plan this stuff out far enough in advance. And it just so happened to coincide with Halloween beautifully because we were always going to dress up for this.
This will probably come out after Halloween, but we're recording it on the 28th.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get as close as I can.
Yeah.
This be one of the first things we discussed when planning the show. I'm not doing the voice the whole time.
So we are covering a special episode on today's podcast. It is technically like episode 0 of season 2.
Yeah, still season 2, baby.
Yeah. So they aired it right before SWAT vs. GSG9. It is the season 1 Back for Blood. And the whole concept of this show is they decide to bring back the winners from season 1. They divide them into 2 categories based on the advent of gunpowder. So you have the ancient warriors, which are pre-gunpowder, and the modern warriors, which are post-gunpowder.
Or black powder.
Well, yeah, black powder.
Just saying my boy gets done dirty.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that when we get to modern warriors. I'm going to host the first part here because we have Lucas. You are the Spartan, our Spartan. I'm going to use expert the way the show uses it. You are our Spartan expert.
As you could tell by my attire, yes, I am the Spartan expert.
You were the guy that Googled the Spartan. And, oh, yeah, we're all as our favorite warriors, obviously, from season 1. Brendan, you are clad in a great Viking costume. He even brought mead with him as well. So let's waste no time, boys. We have 2 matchups to get through. You want to jump right into the Ancients?
Yeah. Also, you didn't introduce me. I am actually not a samurai expert, but a samurai descendant.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Also, hey, for our big fans that watch the season 1 wrap up, we are doing the DVD giveaway.
Oh, yeah.
At the end of this episode. If you can't stand it, I'm sure I'll have a timestamp up, but stay tuned to the end of the episode to see if you won the DVD or not.
To see who wins the DVD.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Ancient Warriors. So, up first, the pre-Black Powder Warriors, labeled as the Ancients. The 5 winners from season 1 are the Apache, the Samurai, the Spartan, the Shaolin Monk, and William Wallace, who seems very out of place.
Yeah. What I like about, I think one of the first things that's said in the episode is Max just goes, "Oh, it's good to be back." And I was like, fuck yeah, Max.
Yes. Yep. I was, the narrator hypes up the new fight. He's like,
he sounds different, kind of.
He's like, "Welcome back to the Fight Club." And we see our boys entered with Max giving us, "Oh, it's good to be back." And we also, they reintroduce all the hosts just like they did in the first episode. And they have Dr. Dorian gets introed by doing surgery on a ballistics gel. The ballistic gel is torn into pieces and he's got a scalpel. He's working on it. So Max, Jeff, and Armand gather around a table covered in a variety of weapons, including the iconic airsoft Famas that they have. Of course, you had something to say about that, Lucas?
I do, and I remember watching this as a kid. We talked about this earlier, and we're like, "Oh my God, look at all the guns they have. There's they got everything. There's an F-2000 in the background. There's a FAMAS on the table." But the tell that they are this is all fake props is that FAMAS itself. Mm-hmm. So I noticed that it stuck out like a sore thumb because they just center the whole camera on this thing. The FAMAS, they imported them back into the US in the 1980s. There was maybe 200 of them, and that sitting on the table, even a semi-auto variant of it is a $30,000 rifle.
Yeah.
And along with some of the other rifles they show off in the back are very, very expensive rifles.
They have a saw gun in the back in season 2. So they have a light machine gun, which is of course gotta just be it's we can spend $2,000 to never use this thing, or not even $2,000. I meant
They're
a lot
like
more.
$9,000. Yeah, if you buy them.
We can spend $10,000+ to never use this thing, or we can just buy the airsoft one.
But like that came up when we were rewatching it, and I see all these guns laid out. And I'm just like, that is such just like pretending to show off. Like, it's such bullshit. Like there's like they have one of 200 of this gun that was ever imported.
So as they're gathered around the table, our original dry boys, Max, Jeff, and Armand, they are trying to decide who is worthy of contending in like the title match. Basically, this is like WWE, you know, or AEW.
And this ancient one is a little more interesting, competitive than the modern one.
Much more interesting. So they talk about which two warriors are the best contenders, and they list a variety of reasons to eliminate each warrior. You know, they bring up some good stuff and some bad stuff, and you can tell they're trying so hard to come up with a different reason for everyone. But what it really comes down to is armor.
Yeah.
They basically end up selecting the two most armored guys, but they keep trying to come up with stuff. So I have it listed here. Like, they talk about the Shaolin monk first, and they're like, well, he's got a lot of passive training.
They kind of dunk on him.
A lot of non-lethal weapons. Also, he's got no armor. I do want to mention, because someone left a comment in our Maori versus Shaolin, a wonderful Max Geiger line about the Shaolin monk. And I was wondering how we missed it, and it's because it's in this episode.
Ooh.
Max says the Maori versus the Shaolin was like throwing puppies into a wood chipper.
Would you say that to Salah's face?
Yeah, right. So they decide Shaolin monk, no armor, he's out. Go on to number 2, the samurai. Automatic contender, they say. He's got the best armor. He lives by the Bushido code, which we'll probably get into, and he's got some steel-edged weapons. So, any disagreements or comments so far about their decision making?
I think they could have just streamlined it to we're taking the 2 people with armor. But
Yeah, definitely.
Also, like, I don't know if you're gonna get to this. Like, Dorian says, like, they talk about the Viking and say that, and he says, like, chainmail isn't really armor.
That's with William Wallace. Says that. So with William Wallace, they say he's got no long range game. Jeff gets very upset. He's like, ball and chain, biggest disappointment of season 1.
His long range game was completely obliterated with that ball and chain, and in my mind, the biggest disappointment of season 1. No kill ability and horribly inaccurate. 1 kill in the sim.
1 kill.
And he gets pissed
how about the
off.
spit of poison, you know?
He gets pissed off and he looks at Max. He's like, 1 kill in the sim? Max is like, 1 kill in the sim.
Yeah,
ball and chain is the worst weapon. Jeff wanted so much out of that Braveheart weapon that they just used. Like,
yeah. I bought the ice sculpture. It cost me like $500.
So then they end up eliminating William Wallace, and that's when Armand says chainmail, not good at stopping penetrating weapons, so it's not really armor. And I mean, this Viking came real close to beating the samurai wearing chainmail. Chainmail was worn for many, many centuries.
Yeah.
I think it's a good armor.
Now,
you know?
they substitute in William Wallace instead of the Spartan.
Yeah.
The samurai doesn't really have that many. I mean, the sword can be used as like a stabbing weapon, but it's a lot of slashing weapons.
That's what I mean, is it was a very close matchup between the samurai and a warrior that wore basically the same thing William Wallace is wearing, like chainmail.
But I do think that like Wallace versus the Spartan wouldn't be a very good matchup.
No,
spear.
I'm glad William Wallace gets eliminated because I mean, most of the stuff they used for him was made up. Like, we covered it on that episode. Like, 3 out of 4 of his weapons are they're from the movie and not actual history. So, you know, I'm glad he doesn't get a shot at the title. 4th, they bring up the Spartan. They say he's got an impressive shield, good armor, lethal weaponry. I don't think there's any contention. You know.
A walking tank, if you will say.
So Spartan makes it onto the contender list, and then they save the Apache for last. I honestly felt bad for the Apache because they're like,
well, we can only have 2.
I know.
We've already made our decision.
He's like, we got lethal weapons at all ranges, and he's got no armor and no armor piercing. And I do agree the Apache probably wouldn't win against an armored warrior on Deadliest Warrior, but I think it would have been interesting if 15-year-old me could have had the Excel sheet, to plug it in and hit the enter key. I would have liked to see what happened. So, all right.
What are the chances that them sitting around at a table like this is how all the kills are decided for the sim? Like, how likely do you think that's how all of these outcomes are determined?
Yeah.
And the fact that all of this it's obvious that this part is like scripted. Like the producers already came up with this stuff and they're like, we want you guys to improv and come to Spartan versus Samurai.
The ball and chain.
Yeah.
I do think that
One kill.
The Spartan versus Samurai was like the most wanted at the time matchup and is the best matchup that they could have chose. If not, I dare say one of the best ancient matchups that could ever happen.
I think it was a really cool matchup for the show. I think it's cool because these warriors are so iconic in pop culture. Like everybody knows who
Kind
they
of like
are.
an East versus West type thing.
Yeah, and they're in mythology. Like you think of samurais are in so many movies and TV shows and anime, and the katana is so like everybody knows what a katana is. And then the Spartan, of course, everybody knows who they are too because of the Battle of Thermopylae and Story of 300 and all that. I mean, so much. Halo, ever heard of it? The Spartan program, a lot of sports teams named after them. So yeah, I like it because these are two warriors everybody knows about. They're both armored, and you know that they would both like want to fuck each other up. It's pretty fun.
They both like have a way of life too. They're not like warriors that are just warriors like on the side or just by. It's like that two people that is their lifestyle and that's it. Nothing else.
And Max is like, oh, they're gonna scrap, and then Jeff goes, he gives us a line inside the kill box. Pointing to the Alienware computer.
One thing I will say about this one other thing is I really think it's cool, like listening to them talk about past episodes.
Yeah.
Like I'd love to see them at a convention being like, because like it almost makes me feel like the show's like not fake.
Yeah.
Because like they're speaking so genuinely of like, oh, well, this killed it.
How much
like
fun they had.
Yeah, it's cool to see them talk about it after the fact.
And I always gotta, before we move on into the episode, I always gotta throw a bone to my real heads out there because I know there are some of you who have been nerding out about this like me for many years. Long time speculation on the Deadliest Warrior forums, if you will, because this came down to armor. Many people believe that the knight would have beaten both the samurai and the Spartan if he had not been eliminated by a gunpowder black powder
by
warrior.
The best.
By a modern warrior.
Nothing wrong with getting defeated by the best.
So I would say the knight and the pirate both kind of get screwed over in Back for Blood, but that's because this show they were not thinking about Back for Blood when they set up everything. So
the ancient makes sense. The whole premise of this episode makes sense for the ancient warriors. It kind of flops on modern
it flops
warriors.
hard with the modern, but we'll get there. So they bring back Barry Jacobson,
The same outfit.
our boy. He's always wearing the same outfit. His like khakis and like a red shirt, red long sleeve. So you get Barry Jacobson returns as a Spartan expert. He discusses a bit about the Spartans' training. Lucas, you already covered them in episode 1.
The very first.
Seems like centuries ago. Would you like to give us a quick synopsis of the life of a Spartan and their legendary training regimen?
I would love to. I'm actually going to readdress essentially my approach to the Spartan on episode 1 before I get into who the Spartan is. So I'm glad I kind of get this chance to readdress it. And now that we've had this podcast going for a little bit and it's not, the first episode anymore where we had like no idea. Like I looked back at my notes for episode 1, like my just pre-episode, and they were nothing compared.
All it was it turns out the show is fake.
Yeah, like the notes were just absolute shit compared to like the prep I do now.
Yeah.
And so I don't think I got my message entirely correct in the first episode. And I want to say that the Spartan is actually my favorite warrior, like ancient warrior of season 1.
Yeah.
And what I was talking about in episode 1 is how the movie 300 kind of created a cultural phenomenon around the Spartan. And what happened with this is anyone who actually studies the real warrior or cares about the real Spartan kind of can get lumped into the you only watch 300 group of people and who can go a bit overboard. This is a bit unfortunate because the Spartans are an anomaly warrior culture with training and weaponry that deserves to be studied. But it just goes to show how much of an impact these Spartan warriors and their cultures had on history and even today's culture.
Yeah.
And as Barry says, there's literally Spartan programs in the military, as you said.
Are you going to touch on Igogi at all? Like when they...
Oh, yeah, the training. Yeah, I got that up next.
Okay, I'm sorry.
This is just my little correction of my episode 1.
I'm sorry.
And then, as you said, there's like video games, even clothing brands. So I'm just going to briefly cover the history of the warriors themselves. And I will say before I do, look into Spartan history yourself outside of the cinema and see how insane the culture was and insanely brilliant the military tactics actually were. They are one of the most studied and impactful warriors of all time, in my opinion. So at the age of 7, Spartan boys entered a rigorous state-sponsored education on military training and socialization program, which focused on hand-to-hand fighting, stealth, pain tolerance was huge, cold tolerance was huge, and dancing, which sounds lame, but it was to develop their footwork. And
you gotta be that's all great skills for like sword play and things.
Yeah, they never wore shoes either, which hardened their feet. And much like the Spetsnaz, stealing was not punished; was only being caught was. So. That's kind of breeds into a lot of warrior cultures, though. So this was their life 24/7 for many years. They did not have any day jobs. They didn't have any hobbies. They didn't have anything. This was their life.
They had like a lot of slaves to do like the work in their society, right? Yeah.
That's what I didn't really touch on the culture.
You would not want to live in ancient Sparta.
Especially if you were a little kid.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's stuff we could go into there. I don't want to touch.
I'm going to focus. Yeah, I'm just focused on the actual warrior themselves. If you want to look up how insane that culture was, and it was, go ahead and look into that history on your own. So at the age of 20, this training, after 20 years of training, they were turned into full-time Spartan soldiers and remained on active duty until age 60.
Wow.
Who even lives to be 60 back then? Right, so I guess if you make it, you get to retire.
Truly one of those standout, definitely very well-known, standout kind of cultures in history.
Oh, yeah. No soldier was considered superior to another. And so that's them. Here's my opinion a little bit on it. I do think that the setups that the Spartan used was kind of ingenious. The bronze armor, chest plate with ankle guards, and the shield, sword, and spear combo was, I think, almost a perfect setup for an ancient warrior. The weak spot that I see is the javelin and the inevitable placement of them being in the Bronze Age before steel was invented, and where kind of the world itself required less education and less like people skills. And essentially,
you said in episode 1 that the whole bit about the javelin. We can just cover this now. The Spartans, there was a different class of warrior because a Spartan is a hoplite, which is a type of warrior that has heavily armored with a shield and a spear. And there was a whole different class of warriors that were like the slingers and the javelin throwers. Yeah. Correct? Yeah. They just had to give him something for the episode.
Yeah, I feel like they kind of lumped that in, but the one that they're addressing on this show is the hoplite, the one with the the shield and the spear. What you think of when you think of a Spartan.
Yeah. All right. Well, I have a little bit of memeage here. I noticed this episode that the model in the graphics they use for the edge, like when they say edge. This
something
it's different from the models that are in the reenactments. I noticed that the guy who is the model for the Spartan is the same guy who is the model for the Spetsnaz and the IRA. So 3 out of 4 of the faces you see in the edges, it's the same guy, and it's the guy who plays the gladiator in the Gladiator Apache episode.
Yeah, that's also, we realized after filming IRA Taliban, that's not the first person. The guy who's like the main mafia guy and the edge guy is also the Taliban guy who is also white.
Yeah, but they wrap him up in a bunch of stuff. So I called it. I knew someone was going to be. No one was doing. He was not doing brown face, but they covered him up in a towel. But he's got blue eyes. I think. Like so.
Yeah, if you've seen the episodes, like it's passable if you're not paying attention. But then you're like, holy shit, that's the mafia.
So we loved seeing our boy Barry back again.
Oh,
You
yeah.
also
But-
his introduction. You skipped over what we see him doing.
Push-ups.
He's doing push-ups with a Spartan shield on his back, which is the most Barry thing
Yes.
like ever.
See, I forgot about this episode. Had we redone our favorite experts, and this episode had already passed,
You would have had Barry.
yeah, this is
higher.
like all of my fond memories of Barry being Barry in this one, where he's just like very, oh, is that so?
he's a suburban. He's a suburban dad.
Like all of his lines are funny, and Shigematsu, is that his name? Last name?
Well, here, let me get into it. So to represent the samurai, unfortunately, Tetsuro Shigematsu is back, and he is playing as obnoxious and a character as ever. I mean, there's chewing the scenery, and then there's like the director just needs to tell you to stop. So he has some of the most cringeworthy lines in the show's history, I'd say, in this episode.
Yeah.
So before we get to some of his cringeworthy comments, Tetsuro mentions some of the samurai's training. Craig, can you give us a quick synopsis of the life and training of a samurai?
Yeah, so I'll be brief. I mean, basically the samurai, they served both the feudal lords as well as the central government in Japan, because unlike the United States, where there's a central government pretty much its entire history, there's like a shifting like feudal regime as well as a central regime, and there's a lot of conflict there throughout the history of Japan. And that results in a lot of wars. The Meiji Restoration is all about, the feudals versus the nationalists and things like that. So they would serve and fight in those wars. As for, we kind of covered this a bit in the Viking samurai episode, but Bushido is not like a handbook. Like, it's not like they wrote Bushido and a bunch of samurai like followed it and, attuned to it. What really it happened was samurai existed for a long time, and people who wanted to go back to the old ways of the samurai because the samurai culture was changing wrote basically like the rules and commandments of the samurai, and that was sort of representative of a romantic version of a samurai. So not everybody followed it. There's like old school and new school samurai, but yeah, that's it. A lot of, unlike the ninja, a lot of what I researched about the samurai were true. So
Sorry, I just remembered you're wearing a ninja costume.
yeah.
Do you follow Bushido?
Yeah, I got my ninjito.
Yes, you might not be able to see it very well on the table. We have a Viking shield, an axe, and a helmet, courtesy of Brendan. And then we have both a pirate cutlass and a ninjuto.
The ninjato.
Yeah.
The best sword, arguably.
Yeah. And we have a little replica break action revolver here for when we get to the
Yeah, well, I'll cover that later.
the Webley. Before we move into the weapons, I do want to take some time to crap on Tetsuro, our boy Shiggy. So
He makes a gay joke.
I have that down here. After the training segment, Tetsuro comments that the Spartan is an unworthy opponent to the samurai, claiming that they fell for the oldest trick in the book at Thermopylae and the enemy snuck up behind them, which of course is a gross oversimplification of like what happened. And he also adds a homophobic comment at the end saying,
We saw at Thermopylae, they fell for the oldest trick in the book, the enemy who snuck up behind them, which is somewhat surprising, given their predilection for watching each other's backsides.
It's surprising they got snuck up on, given their predilection for watching each other's backsides.
Which I gotta say, can I be honest? I love the shit talk. I think because all those little Spartan kids are like you're so pissed off hearing you say that.
I have to say, I have to point out, this is the second homophobic joke made by Tetsuro on the show, because he makes one on the Viking episode as well about when they do the katana test against the pigs that are stacked. He says, "This is how Vikings sleep together, isn't it?" So
yeah, I do remember that.
I have a question, Tetsuro. What are you worried about, buddy? Why are you so fixated on boys hanging out together and it being a little gay? I got news for you. There were probably gay samurai too.
Well, I thought you were referencing the Law and Order clip. I'll edit that in.
I am not gay. I have relationships with women and sex with men.
And I got news for you. That means you're gay.
I got news for you.
Our boy Ice.
Yeah.
So, the other thing I wanted to say about Shiggy was in his intro section. So, like the new footage from this episode, you can see he's got writing on the palm of his hands.
Really?
Yes. If you watch, like, right when he's being introduced and he's doing his monologue where he calls the Spartans gay, he has writing on the palm of his hands. Probably like his lines for the episode. Pretty funny.
The Spartan gay.
He's like, I'm a Kyudo master. So
Probably had to pronounce his own name because it's Shigematsu.
So they dive right into mid-range, which is good because it's like, I think they do testing for the special weapon and the mid-range weapon in this episode. So you have the Naginata up against the Dory spear of the Spartans. And Max remarks that the Naginata is one of the fastest recorded weapons of season 1. So what they're trying to do is they take a look at the old footage from both of these weapons, and they see that they are both capable, shockingly, of killing an unarmored target. So they decide, armor's such a big part of this, let's test these out. They mount a ballistics gel on a little, like... how do you describe it, Luke? It's like, it's on 4 wheels. It's like a little remote control car.
Attack bot.
Yeah, I would call it an attack bot.
Yeah.
You know, if
Jeff calls it the attack bot.
He says, deploy attack bot.
Yeah.
it was like a rejected battle bot bottom.
Yeah. It's kind of awesome. It's what you picture if 4 dudes were hanging out and they're like, yo, that's my attack bot. And you'd mount stuff on it and throw shit at it. Like, so they get a ballistics gel, they put a bronze cuirass, they put it on the attack bot, and they send it forward. And they have Shiggy take a swing with the Naginata, and it dents the armor. You can tell they already tested it because it already has a matching dent on it, like when they start the test. But they react as though it's the first one. He dents the armor a little bit, but he doesn't penetrate it. And this leads to what may be the biggest overreaction to a weapon test I've ever seen. They all get they all just start bullying the Naginata, if that's possible.
Okay, I was gonna put my gloves on, but I mean, it looks like here you're making a dent, but I don't think he's even breaking a bone. Maybe some bruising, but not much more.
I'm so sorry, but there's a really nice consolation prize we have for you over here.
Like, Dr. Dorian's like, well, I was going to put on my gloves, but
Guess I don't have to.
I guess I don't need to. Max and Jeff both refer to the Naginata as useless against armor, and Dorian says it's a waste of time.
Against armor, I'm gonna say useless.
I'm gonna second that. Useless.
Well, I'll say waste of time.
Aw, come on, you could have ratified.
Well, okay, I gotta get a word in about the Naginata. Naginata was made specifically as anti-cavalry to target the unarmored legs of cavalrymen. So, yeah, and as we'll see with the spear test, it doesn't do anything against the samurai either. So theoretically, like, neither of them should ever get hurt. Like, so unless they're targeting a weak point, which is what you should be testing.
I bring up that overreaction because of the reaction we get from the spear test. And
Doesn't Barry say there's like a consolation prize or something too? He's like, over here we have our consolation prize.
Gotta love the shit talking. So next they have Barry test a Spartan bronze spear, even though it says iron tip in the stats, against some samurai armor, which Tetsuro claims is an authentic piece from his personal collection and that it no doubt saw battle.
I just want to emphasize, gentlemen, this is no replica. This is from my own personal collection. This doe is approximately 200 years old. Without question, saw real battle.
Does he like get off to lying or?
Now, I cannot prove whether or not that was a personal piece from his collection, but I just love his like over dramatization. Like, this doe is over 200 years old and it no doubt saw combat.
Why would you use it on like a shitty test on Deadliest Warrior?
I know.
It's like
TV
destroying
show.
a piece of history.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, this is the best show ever made. So he tests the spear against some samurai armor on the tack bot. And the spear not only fails to penetrate the armor, but the spear is bent completely, leaving it literally useless. Now, I think there's a spear point on the other end if you flip it around, but like...
Not useless.
The host... It is. Like, if the tip is bent up like this, you can no longer stab somebody.
Yeah, but there's a spear point on the other side.
Right, which I just said. But
when
like,
you turn it around and try that again, it's same shit's gonna happen.
So
No, it's still not useless then. It's got a second use.
It's completely downplayed, and they call the weapons even because they say, well, both these weapons are useless against armor. But one breaks against the armor and the other doesn't. Like, the Naginata is not breaking when it hits the bronze cuirass. It's not penetrating the armor, but like it didn't break and the other one did. So
this should have been an armor test.
Yeah.
Because like when you're testing a weapon, you have to be testing it under the best circumstances. This is the most damage it could do on a clean hit. Yeah. So like this should have been an armor test. Like this shows nothing about either weapon.
And in the spear's defense, so that you don't think I'm ganging up on the Spartan here. In the spear's defense, they also fail to mention that the Naginata is a two-handed weapon, whereas the spear can be wielded in conjunction with the shield, which does offer it a big advantage because the Naginata has to get around the shield, whereas the Spartan just has to try and find a little sweet spot with his spear. But the way they present it, they're like, well, they both failed against armor, so it's even. And I just thought that was so weird.
Yeah.
It's a very deadliest. Yeah, it's a very Deadliest Warrior half-assed test. And then, but I do love Barry after he just got done oh, there's a consolation prize. He bends the spear. He goes, oh, you could see it bent right there.
Yeah, he's like, you can see the bronze bending against the steel.
One thing we see here, gentlemen, is the bronze deflected off the blade, broke some of it, then bent the spear point.
Every Barry quote I'm going to do starts with,
Long range. Do you guys have any other comments about the mid-range thing?
They call it a draw, right?
Yeah, they say it's even.
Fair enough.
Yeah. It'll become more interesting when we look at the results. But long range, we have the Yumi bow versus the Spartan javelin. We don't need to spend too much time on this segment. They show the hilariously fake footage from the Viking Samurai episode of Tetsuro shooting the Yumi, which we pointed out is like such bullshit. And they compare it to footage of the Spartan javelin. I have to remark, at the 1740 mark in this episode, 1740, you see Max and Jeff sitting with a random guy on set. Max and Jeff are looking at the computer monitors, and this random guy is sitting there, mouth agape, looking completely dumbfounded.
I think we mentioned him on the very first episode.
Did you see him?
Yeah, because he was just like the guy. He was sort of like the red shirt guy from the other episode.
He's like doing the Jay Bauman face where he's like,
yeah.
So he just looks very tired. They end up giving the edge to the Yumi. Superior range, superior accuracy, more shots. Also, we talked about how samurais specialized in archery, and they were also like a horseback warrior. They're not given a horse for this episode, but it's kind of evening the odds. You'd have to create a whole new class for like horseback warriors, I guess.
Yeah, and you'd essentially have to give the Spartan a shield for every test then also, because every weapon's used in conjunction with the shield. It's just one of those Deadliest Warrior doesn't care.
So not only is the Yumi bow like a better weapon, but a samurai is probably better trained for long range, whereas like a Spartan is more trained for melee. Does anyone have like a disagreement on Yumi getting the edge against the javelin?
I think both weapons are honestly kind of useless in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
I mean, Barry points out even like Spartans are used to getting like bows shot at them and they have a defense against it.
But there's Persians firing those arrows, my friend, not the samurai.
Yeah, that's the line I was going to reference.
Yeah, right.
And then the javelin itself is completely useless in this entire scenario.
I don't know how the javelin gets a single kill in this episode, because you are right. The bow is kind of useless because they're predicating it on that like in the eyeball shot that's fake in season 1.
That's the no kill zone or the no reflex kill zone.
Right.
they're predicating it on that shot, and it's like, well, I can hit you in the eyeball, Spartan. And it's like, how often is that shot really happening in a 1v1 scenario where the samurai is standing there and the Spartan's running at him? Wouldn't the natural thing, if you're a human being, be to like have your shield up like this and be like, you see a guy aiming a bow at you, you're like,
like that's what I'm saying. I think both of these are just useless.
I could see it more likely that something like a Yumi gets a kill. I don't know how the javelin gets a single kill in this. Like it's clumsy and you're throwing it like at close range where it's meant to just be thrown in mass, and you have to hit the samurai in the face to get a kill basically with it. So all right, I think we've already spent too much time on
edge Yumi
range.
bow. I agree with Shore. I'd rather have a bow, I guess.
Yeah, right.
You might get that lucky shot.
Yeah, you're more likely to get that lucky shot than the javelin. So at short range, they compare the samurai's katana against the Spartan's short sword, aka the Xiphos.
It's like no contest.
They compare the footage of a katana cutting through 2.5 pigs and the Xiphos struggling with half a hanging pig.
Is that a 2-pig blade?
This is essentially, or 2 Spartan. Take your pick. Yes, I've memorized every cancerous Tetsuro line in this episode. So this is very similar to the Ninjato versus Xiphos test in the pilot, except that the katana is a real sword. The ninjutsu is not, even though it's laying right there. They give the edge to the katana. Do you guys have any comments about this?
No.
Not really. Just if you do straight up sword versus sword,
yes,
it's a better sword.
My thoughts.
Should it be used in conjunction with a shield? Sure, but should the samurai be on horseback? Sure.
Yeah. Well, my thoughts exactly, Lucas. Horse aside, horse riding aside, this is a classic Deadliest Warrior trope that we harp on all the time. Anytime there's a sword and shield, they're constantly testing one-handed swords against two-handed swords and giving the two-handed sword the edge. But like, if the Spartan has a shield, doesn't he kind of have an edge there at close range against the katana? I mean, the Xiphos versus the katana straight up, katana gets the edge. There's no disagreement there. But like, the shield is so relevant to close range.
Yeah.
That it upsets me that this show never, like, they talk about the shield, but they never like talk about at close range, the samurai gets the edge. And it's like, yeah, but at close range, the Spartan still has his shield.
His entire, everything about him is based.
Yeah.
I sound like the little whiny kids. He has a shield. But the entire, everything that is the Spartan is based around that shield. Every weapon is based around that shield. So it's a really hard fact to ignore.
Well, speaking of the shield, we get into special weapons. And the first up is the shield versus the Kanebo, which I have to point out there's a ninjudo moment in this episode. So in Spartan vs. Ninja, there's the moment where Liu Klein says, "This is the ninjutsu," and the narrator goes, "The ninjatsu."
I know which one you're about to reference, and I caught it earlier today too.
So it is, the narrator goes, "The Kanebo," and it cuts to Tetsuro, and he goes, "Gentlemen, this is the," how does he pronounce it?
But if any weapon can blow through it, it is the Kanebo.
Time to see if the Kanebo.
He's like, "This is the Kanebo," or something.
He goes, "This is the Kanebo."
Yeah. He's like, "This is the Kanebo." He says it like that. He's like, "This is the Kanebo," and then the narrator's like, "The Kanebo."
It's funny with this matchup. I got my wires crossed, and I thought it was going to be the shield versus the black egg because I thought the samurai had the black egg for a second, and then my thought was like, "Oh, that's a horrible matchup for them to have for this Back for Blood." Then I was like, "Oh, that's what they did in the fucking show, like the actual episode."
Yeah, remember when that was a real test that they
the ninja was given a black egg at mid range
against the shield? Like, how do you compare that?
The ninja was probably doomed in that episode, anyways, but that certainly didn't help. So, shield versus Kanebo. They review the killing power of the shield by playing the old footage. And then they play the footage from Viking vs. Samurai where Tetsuro says Samurai didn't use shields because it's a manifestation of weakness, which I believe we covered, Craig. You didn't find anything anywhere that said samurai didn't use shield for that reason. It's probably because they were on horseback, right?
Yeah, it was just probably who they went up against.
Yeah. Other samurai, mostly.
That's like what a samurai in like a movie would say.
Yeah, right.
In the Deadliest Warrior movie.
Or a TV show, yeah. And as I said in Viking vs. Samurai, I will say it again. Shield being a manifestation of weakness, that is big talk coming from a guy covered head to toe in steel plate armor. Yeah, well, he's putting their 30-pound helmet on. He's like, yeah, well, I don't use a shield.
Yeah, only pussies use shields.
Yeah, they then review the footage of the Kanebo against the Viking shield, and they see that, the Viking shield chipped a little bit at the edge. We're not going to open that bag of worms here because we already covered it,
Brendan.
But they then test. They have Tetsuro take a swing with the Kanebo at the Spartan shield, and I just want to remark, it's hilarious.
I love watching him struggle. He's trying so hard, and it's not doing shit.
He's trying to swing that club, and he's like, yeah.
The pieces are breaking off of it.
And they play the slow motion footage where he's swinging it like this, and he has his head turned and his eyes closed. he's like,
They're like, Tetsuro, you ready? Hi.
Yeah. He goes, hi.
It's like, come on, stop.
Hilarious. He truly is going all in, and it sucks. So it fails to damage the Spartan shield significantly, and it doesn't deliver enough force to hurt the Spartan wielding it.
Yeah, wasn't that a made-up weapon? Also, didn't we cover it? It was like wasn't necessarily.
There's no
real.
like evidence the samurai used it.
Oh
right?
yeah, because it was more like symbolic, like in like mythology and stuff.
I think they gave it to the samurai because he doesn't have a shield because he's like on horseback.
It's the shield destroyer,
and
essentially.
They're trying to even the odds because they're putting him on foot. So they're trying to give him something that can take out a shield, which is bullshit. But whatever.
If only he made it to season 2, where they allow like horses and various other things.
Yeah, exactly. They had a higher budget. So because of this, because the Kanebo is ineffective against the Spartan shield, they give the edge to the shield. And, I've said numerous times on this show that I don't like them testing shields as their own weapon slot. And I've also said how much I despise the Kanebo being on the show. Because Samurai didn't even use it. But I will remark, I'm okay with the edge or whatever, because the shield, I think, is arguably the Spartans' biggest advantage in this fight. I think the Samurai's got steel, which overall is better than bronze. It's not going to bend against the Spartan's armor. It's going to protect him from the Spartan's weapons. He's got a better long-range weapon, I think. But the Spartan does have that shield, and I think that's a pretty big advantage for him to have.
They mentioned it on the show. What that shield does that I think is like a very like ingenious idea by the Spartans is it is 2 walls of armor.
Yeah.
Like they have that first wall of armor that's very hard to get past, that shield that's movable. But then behind that, they also wear that bronze on the chest and the ankles and everything on the exposed
greaves,
areas. So it's like 2 layers of armor over one, which I think ends up giving him a little advantage.
Do you have any comments about the edge, Craig?
No.
We'll let you bitch about the results here once it's over. So before we get into the reenactment, we have to get into what our new thing that is introduced in season 2, the X Factor. So
wait, every time we say that, can we go?
The X Factor. Just put a big X on it. Have Rocco Botti Ignacio doing the X.
AKA X.
So this is the first episode where we're introduced to the X Factor. In season 2, each warrior is given their own unique X Factor every episode. And they then expand on this concept in season 3, and in my opinion, take it way too far.
Yeah.
So the Spartans X Factor.
Can I say one thing about it?
Go ahead.
Here's the X Factor right here. It's a big old can. And you take it and you open this can of worms of what is this? And like this opens up like we've almost figured out the sim on the season 1 wrap up. And now we have this X Factor.
I'm convinced the X Factor is like a meaningless thing that they just make up. Like,
I have a theory. Well, do you want to explain first and I'll get to my thoughts?
No, go ahead. I said my piece there.
I think that the X Factor I like because as we talked about, as they get into more specific people, we touched on this in William Wallace for Shaka Zulu. Whenever you get in those types of matchups, you're not just testing the weapons, but the people specifically. So X Factors make more sense like that. When you're talking about like a group of people, you're kind of just describing like who they are. Like, and that's all these people are doing is like they're training for all of these X Factors. What I think though, and I could see what it is in the sim, I wish they would get more into detail, is if they're like passive buffs. If it's like a video game.
Yeah.
That would make like more sense.
I know that would be a little bit too much like how the sausage is made, but I would really prefer if Max Geiger's like, yeah, the Spartan's strength stat is higher and the Samurai's like maybe morale is maybe not morale, but like dexterity
like
is
faster.
Higher. Yeah, whatever.
Lightning fast dealer of death
versus the strength stat.
Because at least then you're not bullshitting us with like what that means.
It just adds more into the mystery and illusion of the sim. It's just one more X Factor, if you will.
So the Spartans X Factor, they also say like it's called X Factor because it can't be measured. So it's like,
and why is it in a sim?
Yeah, how do you put it into the
then how do you measure it?
Yeah. The Spartans X Factor is that he was bred to be a super soldier, which, man, the writers really just like phoning it in on this episode. Bred to be a super soldier. I just think the wording of that is really weird. Like very sci-fi. Like,
just say like they went through like 13 years and then of military training and then trained like continual until they were 60.
His brutal training or whatever. Yeah. Barry then highlights the brutality of Spartan society and training. He specifically ends up saying, you know, the samurai is they say the Spartans are brutal, but war is brutal business. And the samurai might find that he doesn't like how brutal the Spartan is. Something like that.
He has some good one-liners where he like has good comebacks to what they say.
They definitely like portray in this episode. Tetsuro is very much like arrogant and talking shit the whole time. And Barry, he has a couple lines where he talks shit, but like he's very filmed very much as like more quiet and humble compared to like not talking all this crap about how the samurai is not worthy. He's just saying like Spartans are, they're brutes, but you know,
war is brutal.
That I mention that now because it'll get into something I want to bring up in a modern matchup. The samurai's X Factor is the Bushido, the way of the warrior. Tetsuro then highlights the importance of honor to a samurai, saying that death in service of his master is the best fate that he could embrace. Any comments, Craig?
No, I mean, again, this is like chivalry, like basically the Eastern version of chivalry in some ways. I know it's not 1-to-1, but like it's not like every single, like I almost said Spartan, every single samurai subscribe to this ideology. So,
yeah, you said samurai very much mirrored like modern military, or like maybe not modern military, but like the idea of like just serving in the military. Like if you were a samurai, you were a soldier. And I'm sure certain ones that were like higher class had better armor and like better training from when they were young, which is the samurai we're getting here. But I don't know, they use this segment, this X Factor segment, to set up a dichotomy that we've seen in a lot of previous episodes, which is you have one warrior who is, you know, the fast, the highly skilled and intelligent warrior, and that's the samurai. And the Spartan is just kind of all about brute strength. And I just want to say, I know it's the show, so you know, who am I yelling at? I'm yelling at the wall here. But like, not only is it not true, but it undercuts what the hosts say at the beginning of the matchup on this episode, where they discuss how similar these two are.
Yeah.
Also, Tetsuro has a little bit, because I love just, you know, going in on Tetsuro. He has a little bit where he's like, you know, some of history's greatest samurai were old, kids, blind.
Is that in the sim?
Yeah, they were blind. They prized more than just strength, which is also a lot of talk because apparently there were blind samurai, but there were no gay samurai.
Is that I want to see the Spartan versus the old blind kid samurai.
Well, I think I want to see Spartan versus Kid Samurai. Spartan comes out, he's like, "Hey there, you're coming on with me."
The Spartan versus the blind samurai.
Say something.
So this is like Marco.
Marco Polo in season 4, Deadliest War.
Before the fight, Tetsuro gets in one last dig saying, "It may be an interesting fight if history's greatest Spartan fought history's worst samurai." I love it. I feel like it's edited and scripted that way on purpose to have Barry being like so kind of quiet and humble and Tetsuro being very arrogant. But yeah. So we get into the reenactment. Lucas, you've prepared another one of your lovely reenactment synopsis.
Oh yes, the ancient simulation reenactment.
In the same field as Spartan v Ninja.
It is, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it's the same forest as Viking versus Samurai too.
The dead ninja was laying off in the corner.
Yeah, they probably
used to think they both just got done fighting, and then they were like, the samurai kills the Viking, and he's taking a stroll, and he's like, he sees the Spartan, he's like, God damn it!
Not again.
Yeah.
Start the sim.
Hit the enter key.
Yeah. On the kill box.
Inside the kill box.
Start the sim. First off, I love how they, like in every sim, but it's really prevalent here. I think it's funny. They carry all their weapons in battle like super unwieldy, just all this stupid shit. Who would be walking around with all of that?
Yeah, he's got like a Kanebo on his back or something, his bow, and like his katana. He's like,
but what if I run into a Spartan? Like,
so the samurai places his Naginata to the side when the Spartan emerges from behind a giant boulder. Roars the Spartan as the samurai misses horribly with the Yumi bow. And they put in like a shield clunk sound for some reason
to make it seem like he hit the arrow off, even though that arrow is clearly flying like wide of the target.
They show it goes like whee, and then it like does a thing where it clinks off. So the Spartan lands from jumping down the 15-foot tall boulder and throws the javelin, ditching that useless shit.
Yeah,
thank God.
He's like, let me get this out of the way.
I want to note here, the Spartan armor and spear tip are violently bronze. So you know that it's bronze and not steel.
And his costume is like a Spirit Halloween quality costume. You can tell his cuirass is plastic. Like, it's what one of us would be wearing right now if like we had picked Spartan as our warrior to
I almost did, but I didn't want to like
buy a Spirit Halloween
So the Spartan rushes in, spear out, as the samurai misses horribly with the Yumi again. Like, seriously, was he like aiming for his feet or something? Like they show it's like an ankle shot. There's a kind of awkward silence here, which is out of place. They didn't put in like any like too loud weapon sounds. They do this like swinging back and forth, and there's just really light music. It's like elevator music in the background. So the Spartan then takes his shield and pushes the samurai up against a tree and goes to stab. Could this be it? No, because it's the most pathetic fake stab I've ever seen. It's like, The samurai rolls out, grabs the spear, and throws the Spartan down, even though there's a 30-pound difference between the two warriors.
That's a great point. We didn't even cover that. But
yeah, he like
good.
throws him to the ground like a rag doll, like it's nothing. He then, instead of something more productive, beats on him like a drum with the Kanebo.
Yeah, I noticed the Kanebo magically appears in his hands. Like, he has the Spartan spear, and instead of killing him, he apparently ditches that and then grabs that Kanebo, and he's like
pulls up like the GTA weapon wheel, and it like pops into his hand, and then just like beats on him.
Yeah.
But the shield blocks it all. The Spartan stabs the samurai weirdly in like the ear.
Yeah, I was gonna say it isn't like the ear. I think it's supposed to be like,
I think like
they didn't have the budget to make it like go through him or something, or like so it is like on his ear.
Yeah,
he like stabs him in the ear with the Zybo.
Yeah, it's awkwardly on the side of his face, but the samurai is so like fucked up by it. Like,
And then we get a wonderful shot where like the Spartan's helmet's like falling off, and he has this like struggle face going on, and then the blood splatters down. So the samurai checks his ear.
It's a very homoerotic shot.
The samurai checks his ear, and I shit you not, watch this again. He does like a little like jig dance for like 5 seconds. It's so dumb. Oh shit. Now it's sword v sword and the shield. Don't forget, back and forth. Holy shit. The samurai charges in, and the Spartan gives him a stab below the chest armor, making him fall over. We get an oh shit face from the samurai, and he gets stabbed through the neck. Yeah. The Spartan gives a way over edited yell that they play like 3 times.
It's like King Kong's yell.
Like satanic.
Yeah.
It's like but it's like an ogre yelling like 1 inch from a microphone, but they like edit it 3 times over itself. Spartan wins, boy. And I want to say, I will be the first. I agree with the results.
Well, we'll get to that. So, lovely. Thank you, Lucas, for that reenactment.
No problem. It was not the most exciting reenactment. I tried to add a little spice in there, but it's a pretty straightforward reenactment.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's not nearly as funny as the modern reenactment.
The modern way better.
It has a lot of memes in it. Yeah. So, results. Spartan ended up with 527 total kills, Samurai with 473. Compared to other Season 1 matchups, this is the 4th closest matchup I looked up. Even though the spear and Naginata were called even, the spear was shown to be ineffective against samurai armor. It gets more than twice as many kills, so they have a 198 kill difference between the two of them. There is 339 kills for the spear, 141 kills for the Naginata. This is the biggest difference maker in the matchup. So Yumi gets quite a few more kills than the javelin. The swords kind of are irrelevant. One gets 10, the katana gets 15.
What's the javelin get?
Javelin gets 16 kills,
which is 1 more than the katana.
Yeah, that's like that's kind of wild.
Katana should have been the number 1
melee weapon.
Yeah, and it's less than the fucking javelin.
Yeah,
that I could dodge.
I know. That is a great point.
But Craig, would you be standing in one spot, or would you be moving
I would probably be moving around. Yeah,
that makes sense.
I definitely think that the swords should have played more of a role than the ranged weapons.
Because even in the reenactment,
even the Yumi should not have gotten like as much kills as it did, I don't think.
Well, the Spartan is like going blow for blow with a katana, and it's like that would never fucking happen. Like he would disarm this tiny little Zythos like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the shield.
Well, that's true, yeah.
Well, I would say I also want to point out that Naginata gets 141 kills, Kanebo gets 142. That's suspiciously close. And short sword getting 10, katana getting 15 is also suspiciously close. So it's almost as though this is all fake.
But which we'll see in the, which I think is like another rabbit hole with these stats.
Well,
these kills aren't proportional to their lethality, as we'll see in the modern one, which I'll talk more about. So it's important to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
But I just don't see how the katana isn't used more.
It's like they make the mid-range weapons like the main weapons, because I know what you mean. It's like the assault rifles get more kills, and that can kind of be chalked up in modern matchups to like that's your primary gun that most of the guys are carrying. But in this, it's like the samurai, is he really carrying the Naginata as much as he would be using like a katana in at close range?
Yeah, didn't you see in the beginning of the sim they carry every weapon they own? All in
it's like that kid who brought his whole locker to class, like in high school, just like.
So here we get.
Just slap at him.
Do we agree with the results? I'm gonna go to Craig first. What do you think about the results?
I disagree with them. I think that a samurai would have been smarter. It would have had more modern weapons, obviously. I think the tests are not well designed, assuming they're even real at all. And I think the only reason the Spartan won is so they didn't piss off all the Spartan fanboys. So that's my theory.
Lucas, what do you think about the results?
I agree with the results. I do think the Spartan would have won. I think it's a very clever setup with the shield in the front, with the armor behind it. I think something that might be a little bit overlooked that we've talked about, could be a joke before, is the Spartan is larger. They give them 30 pounds more weight.
Yeah.
And Spartan strength training is essentially like a huge part of what they do. I think at the end of the day, that 30-pound weight difference and, you know, having that big shield, I think he would be able to push the Spartan around, or the Spartan would be able to push the samurai around a lot more, which might lead to, if you knock a samurai over, as in same with the Spartan, if you knock him over, they're going to struggle to get up with all that armor on. So just the fact that the Spartan is bigger and, you know, is the big brute, and maybe knock them over, I think would be what determines. That shield is pretty much like the X Factor. Like the big, I think that's what wins this fight.
But also, Spartans were not trained at all to fight by themselves.
Come on.
That is false. I do not stand by that.
Don't be stirring that up.
I dare anybody in the comments to contradict me. Spartans were not trained to fight by themselves. They would be like a puppy and a wood chipper if they were fighting by themselves.
We do not condone Craig's opinions.
Craig stirring the pot here.
But
the dislikes are just building.
Spartans were trained one-on-one, hand-to-hand combat.
Allow me to not break the tie. I don't I worded this like a fucking politician. I don't completely disagree with the outcome. So I wrote, there is a lot of fishy stuff in the stats. Like a lot of these stats like come off as like, I know we talked a long time about whether the sim was real or not in the last episode, but these stats come off honestly as fake. I will say this though. Not only do I think the Spartan shield is an advantage, but I would say that the scenario of Deadliest Warrior is more conducive to a Spartan who is solely a melee fighter. Because in real life, a samurai would obviously most likely be on horseback. But if you start that, it kind of starts to snowball. It's like, well, he's on a horse. Yeah, well, now, you know, spearmen are great against horses. And it's
what if it was 5v5 like the modern and they were in a phalanx?
Right. Is he just running in circles, like hitting him with the arrows? You know, like you can snowball it. At the end of the day, it's just a TV show. You know, I will say this to not please either side. I honestly like the Spartan. So I like the samurai more nowadays. I was rooting for the Spartan when this came out. I like the samurai more now in my adult age, but
because you played Ghost of Tsushima.
It's because I played Ghost of Tsushima. But you know, and I think they look cooler, I guess. But I mean, the Spartan, he could win. It's a close fight. He's got a shield. It is what it is. So
I think the limiting factor of the Spartan itself is the Bronze Age. I think if the Spartan existed like later in history, they would be like almost an unstoppable ancient warrior,
almost like a knight.
Yeah.
So, which leads me to my next question. Before we get into modern warriors, this is my last question. Do you guys think the knight could have beaten the Spartan?
Yes, I think that the discussion would have been, well, the knight is more armored, obviously, and they would have said that knights were used to de-armoring other knights, and the Spartan doesn't have nearly as much armor as another knight. Therefore, he would just cut through him like butter.
What do you think, Lucas?
I'd say no. I think they would both be equipped pretty equally.
Well, use Deadliest Warrior logic. Don't use actual logic.
Yeah. So the knight's in full steel plate, and he has a wooden shield.
Steel or iron?
It says steel plate on the show.
Okay.
Like what they use, because they're taking like the best armor you can get first when they did it against guns, you know, primitive guns. So it says he's in steel plate.
This one's baffling to me, honestly.
That
I'd
would
like
be
to see
tough
this
because
setup. It's very tough to decide.
I don't know if a Spartan weapon could get through. Like
the bronze and might limit too much.
700 kills to the shield.
Yeah, that would be. I'm gonna give no opinion on that right now, and I'm gonna say season 4, episode 1.
Well, regardless of season 4, right after Baby Yoda versus Gremlin. Thank you for that wonderful comment, by the way. Well, alas, Knight fans, your boy got cheated. The Spartan is the deadliest ancient warrior in the show.
I mean,
You want to give us a celebration, Lucas?
Yeah, woo! According to the show, but according
I'm
to
putting in
our
the civilization music.
According to our sim.
According to our sim, the Deadliest Warrior was also
The ninja. Yep.
So
That's
we
true.
should probably do like there should be a match.
If you haven't seen that video, go back and watch it.
Yeah.
There should be a
hacked
match
the sim
between
and did it.
the Spartan and the ninja, the winner of the show's Deadliest Ancient Warrior and the ninja, our Deadliest Warrior from our sim. They should fight.
Yeah.
in
but
some
in
type
our,
of
but in our sim, because we know how it ended in the last one. Okay, well, right here, we're going to get into the Modern Warriors, and I am going to turn it over to Craig as the host so that Lucas can come back for IRA and I can come back for Spetsnaz.
Welcome everybody to to the second part of Back for Blood, Deadliest Warriors Season 2, Season 1, Back for Blood. I am your host, Craig Taylor, and you already introduced.
Yeah, Maddie D.
I'm still Lucas.
Yes.
You're pirate for the day.
We're
Yes.
here for the Modern Warrior.
Yes. So we have obviously IRA versus Spetsnaz, one of the worst matchups on the show.
Yeah.
In a lot of respects. I guess I want to get straight into like the debate real quick before we get into any sort of summaries about these
can we
warriors.
talk about the Warriors that get eliminated here, or...
Yeah, well, I'll just say this. At first, watching this, I was like, well, why do they even talk about the pirate? Like, just skip over him. It's like a waste of time on the episode.
All right, I got some things to say.
Well, then I was like, well, why talk about anyone besides the IR or Spetsnaz at all?
right.
And then I was like, why talk about anybody but the Spetsnaz?
Yeah.
Their Modern Warriors are very, very flawed for this episode.
Yeah, I remember even when I watched this, like, first time it came out, I was watching it, I was like, I cocked an eyebrow up and I was like, they already did best modern matchup in Green Beret versus Spetsnaz. I was like, none of these guys are gonna hold a candle to the Spetsnaz in 5v5.
They wrote themselves into a corner.
Yeah.
So I mean, the pirate they kind of gloss over, but they gave him some respect. They're like, we kind of did him dirty, but a little too primitive.
The pirate gets done very dirty. He faced an ancient warrior in the actual show, but you can't put him against a modern firearm. He is in his own category, and there is a couple warriors coming up on this season that would be good contenders for the pirate.
Yeah.
But I think he's not in either of those categories. He's in his own, like, primitive black powder, should be its own category.
Yeah, even if you're keeping it as broad as possible, which is what they're doing, because you can snowball and create a whole bunch of categories: armored, unarmored, horseback, blah blah blah, lever guns versus modern guns. But even keeping it as broad as possible, it's clear that the pirate is in a third category, because it's not fair to put him against any of the ancient warriors because he's got a gun. He has a gun and a grenade.
Yeah, but that's who he fought in the show.
But he also can't fight someone who's got like because it's not fair to the ancient warriors. It's not fair to the pirate to put him up against like an AK, or a Sega shotgun or something. It's just I kind of want to see that match.
Did you see like
Spetsnaz killing the pirate guy with a ballistic knife?
Or the pirate like crash lands in Ireland, and then there's an IR with a flamethrower, like the entire ship on fire.
This is my grievance relievance for this episode. The pirate faced an ancient warrior, so that was an ancient matchup. So therefore, shouldn't the pirate be the best ancient warrior?
Yeah,
he
but
could beat
that's
any
not
of them.
fair to the other ancients.
Yeah, but it's not fair to him if he's a modern warrior. So there needs to be a third category. And then they reference
pirate versus pirate.
Lucas,
they reference the Somali pirate, who we'll be seeing soon. But that is the Somali pirate is not the same as like the golden era of piracy.
Jeff is like, their tactics are still being used today, i.e. the Somali pirate.
On their like little speedboats with AKs.
It's a bit of a stretch, Jeff. If you consider tactics, like when
They both have the word pirate in them.
When he's talking about tactics, he's just talking about stealing. Like then they go and they steal shit.
So here's my controversial opinion. The pirate is the best ancient warrior.
Well, I would disagree and say he's in his own category.
I'm just kidding. That's what I'm saying.
And at the end of season 2, I think we should do a fan fiction Back for Blood. And all that to say is maybe we can add his a third category of black powder.
Yeah.
In other words, maybe we can do something custom.
Yeah, let's do something custom.
Yeah. I do want to say before we move on from the pirate, Max gives us the lines. He gives us the line.
I mean, let's be honest. This is all about guns, guns, guns.
This is all about guns, guns, guns.
Yeah, I was like, okay, Max. But then we have the Mafia, which it's like that's
The Mafia.
a modern warrior, if you could call it that. Are they warriors? Yes.
I would love to see Joe Ferrante on the show going like, you asking about the Spetsnaz? Who?
Dude, oh my God. Imagine the interaction between Joe Ferrante and Sonny Puzikas.
Oh my God.
Joey would be like, he'd be trying to fight him. He'd be like, can I give you a punch?
Yeah, I know.
Joey has like a blackout. What happened? I tripped.
Joey's got like brass knuckles. And he's talking to the camera. He's like, let's see him absorb this.
I'm going to turn him sunny side up. Gets his ass beat.
All I wrote here for the rest of this was that they don't eliminate the Mafia right away, which I always thought was funny. The inevitable winner of this category is so obvious that it's funny to watch them try and rationalize why they're even doing this episode.
Yeah, they really do that at certain points. They're like, okay, well, the IRA maybe. Like, I think I have a quote here. Like, well, they say because, I think this is more in the X Factors, but they're like, well, because the IRA is so, like, has so much convictions for Ireland and the Spetsnaz have convictions for Russia, they're kind of like the same. It's something like that where I'm like,
and Max is like, because it's either Jeff or Armand is like, yeah, the Spetsnaz are going to steamroll them, right? And Max goes, well, because someone has to play like devil's advocate behind the scenes.
The Spetsnaz might also have trouble with another guerrilla fighter. The IRA are almost a mirror image of the Mujahideen in terms of how passionately they believe in their cause. And guerrilla for guerrilla, the IRA was able to defeat the Taliban in our tests and in our simulations.
Max is like, the only recorded struggle that the Spetsnaz ever had was against the Mujahideen.
oh, yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Then the IRA, they beat the Taliban, which are like the offspring of the Mujahideen. And I'm just sitting there like, this is so much mental gymnastics. Like, this show is a 5-on-5 fight in like a warehouse.
I have a thought experiment. What do you guys think would have been the Mafia's X Factor? Would it be like Italian heritage? Like,
The blood,
like legitimately, what else would they have done?
Carbo loading with pasta.
Familia.
It would have been like street smarts.
That's it.
Like that kid in your school who's like failing algebra, and he's like, yeah, but I'm street smart.
We see this fight is taking place in the streets, and we know them.
Yeah. Hey, listen, man, I may be failing algebra, but I've smoked weed one time. All right, I know a thing or two about the streets.
Yeah. So moving on, we got the experts. We got Sonny. Who, not much to say. Sonny.
He made our top experts list.
He did.
I think he came in second behind Michael Lair, and or did he come in third?
Snake Blocker technically came in second, but he got that third mention with Sala.
Sonny and Sala kind of tied for third there. All I have is that Sonny says the line, "The big red machine is coming."
I know. He's still like 80s movie villain.
Yes.
Then we have former millionaire Scotty Collins.
Former millionaire?
Which,
according to his website.
Yeah. A little background if you haven't watched. We did some research into Scotty Collins, and I did. And he had a net worth of $9 million on like networth.org.uk or something. And then I looked editing, and it was down to like, it was down from 9 million to like 800,000, which is a lot of money, but
I'd say Yumpoo is a better source.
Yeah. I was like, what the fuck happened, Scotty? Jeez.
Bum, 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 bum.
Yeah.
Scotty has two incredible lines where he says, if the IRA can hold off one of the two world's superpowers, then they can certainly hold off a bunch of guys from Russia. I noted that Britain hasn't been a superpower since the 30s. Later on, he has another good one that I'll save for the section where he mentions it. Yeah, we all know it's probably the second most famous line amongst our friends groups behind Ninja would run away and kill him in his sleep.
Yeah. So moving along, long range. I think they call it long range.
Yeah.
AR-15 versus AK-74. They call the AR more accurate. Is this true?
We've addressed
or is it dependent on who's using it?
It's dependent.
Yeah, we don't have to take a ton of time. They test accuracy at like 50 yards in this show, so it really depends who's shooting the gun. And important to note, they're going off of the AR AK tests in IRA Taliban, which are fake. And go watch that episode. We go into it. It's completely faked. The AK-74 that the Spetsnaz has is not the same gun. It's a different caliber, and I don't think there's all that much evidence that the AR is more accurate than like an AK-74.
It's 7.62 by 45. Right?
No. It's firing a 5.45 by whatever. It's another.
I don't remember. Off the
it's
top
similar
of my head.
to the 5.56, is what I'm saying. So, we don't need to spend a ton of time on it. They can call it even.
I'm happy they called it a draw, because that's all it needs to be.
Yeah. As far as like, I think there's an argument to be made that the Spetsnaz can get the edge in every category on this episode, because they do basically. But that's all. I'm cool with it. Whatever.
Probably the shortest modern gun discussion on this entire podcast.
We've had like 3 or 4 episodes now where we've just gone off on the same debate.
Yeah.
I didn't have to even open my phone
It's
to
a
start
draw.
playing on it.
Yeah.
Moving on to long range or longer range, we have the Dragunov versus HK-63, which I do like that they went through the effort of putting in 2 guns to even it up.
I do want to say one last
HKG3.
thing. I want to say one last thing on the AR-15. They do say again, they mention it's fully semi-automatic.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
That's the only thing. Okay.
Yeah.
We can move on.
So Dragunov versus G3, all I'll say is in the graphic, you may have noticed, they use an HK-G36, which is a completely different gun. And
That was my thought exactly.
they use it. Now, I imagine they just got lazy and used that, because that's the GSG-9 is the next episode after this, and GSG-9 has
Put a scope on it.
They have a G36, so they just like put that gun up there.
Yeah.
And they were like, let's just use that graphic. It's fine. It's a pretty similar name.
Yeah, so stats on the HK, it is 750 yards, so pretty long. 7.62, 20-round mag, semi-automatic. So can this gun actually be used as a sniper?
Yes, the G3 is made in like a shit ton of variants. There is a sniper variant called the MSG3, which I'm assuming what they're referring to. What the IRA actually had, I did not see any G3s on there. They had some regular G3s. Can also be used as sniper, sure.
G3 is a battle rifle.
Yeah.
Whereas Dragunov is designed as a DMR, which is more inclined to be a sniper. But again, we can throw all this out the window, because I'm done asking what range the match starts at. I'm just going to go off of, it's like you said, Craig, you have to go off of what the show gives you or you'll tear your brain apart. In this contest, they test these guns at 80 yards, they say. Jeff specifies that this is at 80 yards. It's not a difficult shot for any kind of rifle. They would both work fine at 80 yards. It would be completely dependent on the operator.
Yeah. Fun fact, I have shot a G3.
Yeah.
I shot Mike's.
Yeah, big Mike's. Yep.
Yeah. We went to Dunham's and he bought this assault rifle in like 15 minutes. So if you're not from America, you might think that's a little bit weird, but hey.
Hell nah.
Hell nah.
So I'm just going to give a little bit of background on what a G3 is too. It is just because it is technically a new weapon to this episode.
Sure.
It is a German developed select fire battle rifle. Like you said, like the Scar, it's a battle rifle, which is my favorite. The 7.62, it is by 7.62 by 51 millimeter, which is 308 as more common terminology. 20 round magazine. It was developed in 1958, and it's been in service since 1959. The max range is about 4,000 yards, but the effective is about 200 to 400 yards with iron sights, 600 with a telescopic scope, which if it is a sniper system, as they claim it is, it should have a telescopic scope with it. 500 to 600 rounds per minute. And then, as I kind of mentioned before, did the IRA actually have these? There was ones stolen from a Norwegian base near Oslo in 1984 that was supplied to the IRA. So I don't know if they had the MSG3 sniper variant or if they just had regular G3s, but they did have some version of this gun.
Yeah.
And then you may be more familiar with its replacement, the G36 that you mentioned.
Yeah. I think the most unfair thing about this matchup is that it's Sonny testing the firearms against Scotty Collins.
Who's just a guy.
Yeah, who might be decent with tests, but is just billed as some guy's nephew. Whereas Sonny, shoots guns like every day of his life.
Although to be fair, that's who the AR is, just some guy. So
yeah, but they might have a little more training than Scotty even.
He looks like he has not shot on a range in like 20 years.
Especially since it's a stress test. I did notice they show both of them shoot, but they don't have like a camera angle showing like them shooting and hitting a target. So the test could be rigged.
I have a suspicion for that. They're shooting 3 targets from, what'd you say, like 70,
80 yards.
80 yards.
And one's moving.
I bet you they
On the
slowed
tac
Sonny's time down to like, they let Scotty fire and he got like 31 seconds or something.
Yeah.
I bet you Sonny did it in like 10 seconds. Because hitting 3 targets for someone like Sonny.
At 80 yards
would
not be like...
There's no way he took like 28 seconds.
I don't know if we've actually explicitly explained that like the test, they're like on like a cliff, I think, or something. They're shooting down at like attack bots going like left and right.
They have like a little tower that they're shooting out of.
Yeah. And my question is, do you guys think that this time Sonny actually made sure the range was clear when he started shooting?
Yeah, no comment.
Sorry, Sonny.
Sonny is a trained professional.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Don't kill me, Sonny. So the Dragunov, they say it's 29 seconds and the HK is 36 seconds.
That was close.
So again, I just noted, like we said, why is Scotty even testing the guns and not somebody else? But
why not have one person test both guns?
Yeah, right.
Would make more. That's a big brain decision, though.
Why don't you shut up over there?
Yeah.
This is the show.
This is not about consistent tests.
Yeah.
This is about action.
Yeah.
So Edge, Dragunov, I think just because Sonny uses it.
Fine. Whatever.
You could even argue that like the HK is probably more versatile.
Yeah, maybe. Like you can strip it off and you're more likely to strip it off and put iron sights on.
Maybe it won't jam as much as they are.
Does the Dragunov fire 7.62 by 54 rimmed?
It fires that Russian round.
Yeah,
7.62 by 54 rimmed. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the R stood for Russian.
It stands for really accurate.
Yeah.
Moving on to medium range. We're moving right along here, boys.
I love this matchup.
A Sega shotgun versus a flamethrower.
This is the mental gymnastics you have to do.
Yeah, and then Sonny has a great line. Dorian says that the Spetsnaz would stop to help their friends if they were burning alive.
If you're burning like that, your comrades are going to probably have to take their time to help you out. So that, in a 5-on-5, may actually tie up a few more people.
What the fuck are they gonna do? Like, get water! Get water! Like... Yeah.
Quick, pee on him.
Yeah. And so Sonny, it says something like,
from my training and experience, if the man is burning, at that point, he is no longer a living man. My first job is to finish the fight.
As soon as he's on fire, he is already dead. Yeah. I need to complete my main objective.
This drives me crazy. They give the edge to the LPO, and it's because Armand claims he'd rather treat a gunshot wound than a burn. And I'm just like, I'm baffled by that. Like, I guess a 3rd degree burn maybe, but like if you get shot with a 12 gauge like anywhere, you're fucking die. It's not a gunshot wound. You know what I mean? It's like it's crazy to me. I think a shotgun is a superior to a flamethrower because a flamethrower is meant for a very specific task. And if I had to charge across the field from starting at 80 yards, I would not want the flamethrower at all.
Right after you said that the Spetsnaz would help their guy burning, can we put in Dolph Lundgren as Iron Drago going, if he dies, he dies?
If he dies, he dies.
I've said it before, I am technically, I guess, representing the IRA.
Yes.
This is my like modern grievance relievance for this. I am a huge advocate of shotguns over like I did it on like
flamethrower.
Yeah, I'd said it like on the sawed-off shotgun too, where like people think shotguns range just like drops off at like ridiculous, that like 15 feet it just spreads out. I mean, shotguns can shoot a much farther distance than like most games and movies and stuff represented do. The range of the LPO is like 80 yards. If they have the real flamethrowers, like 70, 80 yards. A shotgun can easily shoot that distance.
Oh, yeah.
Also, and it's semi-automatic. Yeah. This is like one of my.
Hey, if you walk in and there's like a room full of guys, you can get them all.
Yeah,
the flamethrower.
I would much rather have instead of a big unwieldy flamethrower.
But like, is that the specific scenario we're looking at, or is it? I just feel like a shotgun is more generally useful. So.
I feel like in almost any given scenario,
they get the edge wrong. They get the edge wrong here, but I think they do it to even it up. So.
Yeah, there's another one of those coming up.
Yeah, so
I don't know.
I think it speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Explosives, nail bomb, custom nail bomb versus RGD5. They give the nail bomb edge because it has shrapnel, but doesn't like the RGD5.
Yeah, I guess I understand that logic that the nail bomb, because it's custom, so they can make it whatever the hell they want.
What if you make a fucked up one that doesn't work?
Yeah.
What if you blow yourself up with it? Like they said, a lot of them accidentally did.
Like I would point out, you can carry multiple grenades and you can deploy them as necessary. Like if you're in a fight and someone's behind a wall, you can throw a grenade in there and kill him. Whereas the nail bomb, the way it's portrayed on this is it has to be set ahead of time.
Yeah, and you have to watch it and detonate it yourself. This is the other one where I said the edge is messed up because they end up giving it to the nail bomb, I believe.
Yeah,
I would much rather have
because it's
grenades.
There's a rule on this show where they always just give the edge to the bigger explosive. Like if it's bigger, they just give the edge to it, which has a certain logic to it. But like in this case, you're talking about a grenade versus like an IED, and for a 5-on-5 fight, I'd rather not have to like leave an IED just laying around that I have to detonate at some point.
Rather the versatility.
Yeah, I'd rather be like able to engage, if I wasn't like normal schlub. If I was a Spetsnaz commando, theoretically. I would rather which I am tonight. I would rather be able to engage and like be able to throw the grenades as necessary. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I
disagree with the edge.
Yeah, I think they got that one wrong. I would much rather have a grenade. But I do got to say on this too, the grenade test, they show it again in this whenever they detonate that grenade.
It's so fake.
That is not how a grenade explodes whatsoever. That is absolutely like...
Yeah, they put it in a washing machine.
Yeah, that is absolutely like just like special effect explosives.
Okay.
Yeah, we can move on.
Not much to say. Now we're all the way down to the X Factor.
Yes.
Well, actually, that's like halfway.
They intercut the X Factor between some weapons here.
Yeah. So Spetsnaz, they just say the training, just like the Spartan.
Yeah.
Brutality in battle.
Brutality in battle.
So, but we also get a nice, unexpected segment of Sonny punches Jeff for some reason, which has nothing to do with the X Factor, and he gives him like a half-hearted like side punch. Like it's not even just a hook. He's like also beside him.
Here, Craig, give me one.
Yeah.
I absorbed that. I absorbed that.
Jeff is learning to absorb it, and then we see Sonny do the same punch to a Dick's Sporting Goods mannequin filled with blood, and when he punches it, it explodes and implying that if Sonny punched a guy in the abdomen, he would like punch through his skin like the Terminator.
Which I believe. Yeah, and Sonny's like, that was about 30-40%. I think it's even less than that.
Love that part. He's like, what were you like punching there? Yeah, 30%.
Yeah, he's like Goku or something.
Yeah.
But... Yeah, and Jeff just like coughs, like he was practicing it. It weirdly like encourages all the little kids watching this show to like to punch each other and just yell, and you'll just absorb it.
I assume
I never did that.
I assume what like he's trying to represent as like that is like
we 100% did that.
He like just flexes his stomach because he does this like weird little like, oh, that's how you do it.
Yeah. With no instruction.
Can I say before moving on to the IRA's X Factor that I noticed that the Spetsnaz is set up in this episode very similarly to the Spartan, specifically the word like brutality and battle. I think there's a lot of parallels between the Spartan and the Spetsnaz, and I don't think that that's an accident on the writer's part. I think they're definitely trying to create a like this is the best ancient warrior and the best modern warrior, and it's because they both have this brutal training. Max later in the episodes refers to the AK-74 as a humble weapon. I don't know how you call an assault rifle humble, but like it's all implying this idea of like a simple, boiled down warrior who's just kind of there to take pain and dish it out. So it's just something I noticed.
Yeah. And the IRA X Factor is their passion for Irish independence, I think.
Yes.
So,
yep. And we get the line.
The Spartans are working for their paycheck. The Irish people, they're working for their country.
Oh yeah, Scotty.
So I don't know who signs up for Russian special forces to make what, 20 grand a year or whatever. I don't think it's a job you join if you're not fighting for your country. But you got it, Scotty. Also, I love that he says the Irish people. That's the whole IRA.
Yeah, all of them.
All the Irish.
Yeah, so what do you think their passive buffs are?
I like to think
null and void.
They gave like the Spetsnaz and like D&D terms, they gave them like higher vitality points, like more HP because they can take pain or something.
Yeah.
And
they get more AP because they're passionate.
Yeah,
the IRA.
Right, yeah.
Now this is absolutely 100% true because I just Googled it.
Okay.
So it's got to be dead true. I typed in Russian military salary, and the average is $50,000 a year, which is not terrible.
Is that converted to American though?
I have no idea. I told you I just Googled it.
Let's just believe it.
That's not bad, but I doubt you join the Russian special forces because you're like you're like
may not be alive a year to get to 50,000.
You're on like the 9th mile of your run, and you're exhausted, and you're vomiting, and they're like, "Come on, you have another 20 miles to go, you piece of shit." Someone's yelling in your face, and you're like, "But man, you can't beat that 50K with benefits, though." It's like,
at least I'm getting that paycheck.
I'm getting that pension, man. It's all worth it. I'm glad I didn't become an accountant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
All right. Special weapons?
Yeah, ballistic knife for slingshot. Only note I have is who cares?
Yeah.
Let me read you my note.
Both
don't care.
Yeah.
Both fake weapons. I did mention I'm still baffled as to how the slingshot gets a single kill. I don't know how.
Well, are you kidding? It's child's play, but deadly.
Yeah. Armand even says, he's like, I've treated a ton of people with knife wounds. I've never treated anybody with a slingshot wound. So
who cares? Ballistic knife sucks, but it's better than a slingshot.
Just to fast forward, the slingshot gets 3 kills in the sim. How does it get a single?
The saddest Spetsnaz ever died with a slingshot.
Can you imagine being special forces and you get taken out with a slingshot?
Some Irish guy, he's like, "Oi, laddie," and shoots you right in the eyeball, and it goes through your brain and out the back of your head.
No, it doesn't even do that. It bounces around and then shoots back out, remember?
And someone comes by, paints a little bit of blood on your eye.
Ow.
Ow. Yeah.
He hit him in the no reflex kills.
Yeah. Moving on. That's it. Pistols, last category. So we got the Makarov pistol versus the Webley, 455.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Range 50 yards. That's for a pistol. It's kind of okay.
That's like the generic range they give to every pistol on this show.
It's a fair assumption.
Like the Walther, the Webley, I think they've all gotten 50 yards as their max.
Yeah. Ammo 455, 6-round mag, 30 rounds per minute. Do you have to?
Greg is so disinterested.
Well, every time you shoot, do you have to pull the hammer back?
Okay, so we do have a prop gun. I'm gonna hand it over to it's Lucas's.
This is like essentially a prop break action revolver. Brought it on as an example. So the Webley revolver, I completely forgot about this.
Wait a second, wait. Cold gun, Lucas.
Yeah, the Alec Baldwin stuff just happening recently.
I completely forgot about this until we got back to the Back for Blood. And so I wanted to take a moment and talk about break action revolvers. Yeah. So the one they specifically talked to is the Webley revolver. And it's one of the most powerful top break revolvers ever made. Why is that interesting? Because, I mean, how many break action revolvers do you see anymore? There's a reason that they were phased out. They were generally used for weaker cartridges because most can't withstand high pressures. And essentially, they're more complicated to make and subject to more wear from all the moving parts. And these Webleys were made from 1887 to 1970 in service for the same years.
They were like the sidearm of the British Empire, right?
Yeah, it was for till 1970.
Okay.
As far as that I could tell. And they were a licensed copy of the Smith & Wesson Schofield. If you've ever played like Red Dead Redemption 2, there's that Schofield revolver that reloads. It has that iconic little like hinge down here.
Because it's firing a 45 Colt round, right? Correct.
This, it's a 455. It is essentially a black powder. It is a cartridge similar to today's pistols, but it was a black powder round. So it actually, it travels a lot slower than today's pistols, the actual round itself. And it was a single or double action, Craig, which is the answer to your question. It can be fired by cocking it and then pulling the trigger, or you can just pull the trigger.
Why would you cock it?
So if you
it has a lighter trigger.
Yeah, if you cock it, it takes way less pressure to pull the trigger. Whereas if it's not cocked, it takes a lot more pressure to be able to make it go off.
Yeah, like whenever you pull this back, this trigger kind of gets pulled back a little bit, so it's a lot easier to pull that, like your first shot, and then you can keep firing after that. They did, which I thought was really cool about this Weebly revolver itself. They made an automatic variant.
The Weebly. We got a lot of weebs in the audience probably watching who are pissed off about the samurai losing.
They made an automatic variant of that pistol that operated like today's bump stock, where it had like this thing would move all back and forth. And
wow,
it was crazy. And they cost $12,000 to $30,000. Now that 4.55 round that pretty much does not exist anymore had a muzzle velocity of 620 feet per second, which it's up against the Makarov, which is 9mm. That the 9mm travels pretty much almost double that.
Yeah, way faster velocity.
620 feet per second sounds very fast, but it is very slow for a bullet. And they made a variant of it in 45 ACP also, which is a round that's very common today, and the 50-yard effective range. I've watched videos of this Weebly revolver, and 4.55 is a huge caliber. This thing had some
balls.
It had some balls. It had some recoil. Doing repeat shots with that thing would not be something you could effectively do at 50 yards. It would be like not that much, but
yeah.
So I really, really wanted to like this revolver, and I love the history of like the break action revolvers.
I love what Scotty says, where he's like, the Makarov's a good gun, but when it's put up against the Webley will win every time.
But
why?
Top break revolvers.
Like he's thought about that before. Yo, what if the Makarov went up? It's a good gun, but what if it went up against the Webley?
Every time.
Top break revolvers like this replica were phased out over regular revolvers because of the wear and tear on them, and regular revolvers were essentially phased out of service because of semi-automatic pistols like the Makarov. So I really wanted to like this pistol, and it's 6-round capacity. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Greg?
So we get 2 tests. One, I guess you would call the ballistic test. So it looks weird. And initially
they
it was
finally used ballistic gel.
Yeah. And at first I thought it was kind of weird, but then it made sense because it's a skull. I mean, you'll see it. It's a skull in front of a long piece of ballistic gel, so you can kind of see the stopping power. And what do they call it? The entrance cavity?
It's the entrance wound. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the entrance
It's essentially
cavity.
a vacuum that's created whenever a bullet hits ballistic. You know, when they use ballistics gel for its intended purpose.
Yeah, which we said on the show they never do.
Yeah. So,
by the way, I don't know if I'm wearing this beret right, but none of the models in the Spetsnaz episode are wearing them right. So
You're wearing it the Deadliest Warrior.
I'm wearing. Yeah, I'm not trying to be a Spetsnaz commando. I'm trying to be a Deadliest Warrior
stand-in.
Yeah. And there's a very clear difference between how the skulls are hit. So Sonny shoots the skull and, it goes in. Whereas the Webley fucking sends the skull, not flying, but sends it back. Obviously, way more stopping power with the Webley.
There's a difference in the training here too, because Sonny starts down here and goes and then shoots. And then Scotty's like, say go. Like
Scotty's
already
never
up.
done a drill where he starts from the hip, and they don't want him shooting himself in the foot. So,
So, Sonny says he shoots the skull in the nose because he says it's more deadly than the forehead. Which
I don't know. Yeah,
sure.
No reflex kill
I think
zone?
he just placed the shot in the nose, and that was, he had a good reasoning for it.
Yeah.
Then we have the live fire test. They have like these really rudimentary rooms, which they get more elaborate. Like in SWAT vs GSG9, they have pretty, decent rooms to shoot in.
They have a pretty fun test in that episode.
Yeah. They have smoke grenades that are used to hide how shitty the rooms actually are. They are colored to fit the IRA and the Spetsnaz, which is kind of cool. So nice little touch.
Yeah.
So Scotty's first, and he misses the first target. And after the test, when they say you missed them, he uses the excuse that it's the smoke that caused it.
I couldn't see him. He couldn't see me.
Yeah,
because of the smoke that was part of the test.
That's the point of the test, you dumb fuck. Well, if there was no smoke, would have been fine. Yeah, but that's the whole point.
I don't know how you missed from like 2 feet away.
That's the other thing I was gonna say is like he's like probably the camera's further away than he was. So.
He fires all in single action that whole time too. He cocks every shot
He like
back.
comes back and he cocks it, and then he like shoots it, and it's like, how did he miss from like 2 feet?
Yeah, how did he miss any of them?
I guess you get nervous, man.
Also, like with the IRA, whenever, because they added a civilian cardboard person in there, like would the IRA really be against killing a civilian? Like,
it's a great question. Yeah,
I think in principle, but
she was in the way. So, and then there's like, it's weird because it's like bloody cardboard. I guess there's like a blood packet.
Yeah,
in between.
I think they just have.
I was like, where is it like bleeding from? I didn't really have a lot of notes on Sonny's. He like goes through and he reloads in the middle of it. He's like, I didn't have to, but I did.
It's to like showcase. I think it's to showcase an advantage of having like an automatic weapon over a revolver.
It goes very unappreciated though.
Yeah,
I do have to say.
In that, Makarov holds 8 rounds in a magazine, and you could put a round in the chamber and have it as 9, but 8 rounds in a mag, and then you can reload a magazine on average much quicker than you can reload a revolver. I know there's guys out there who swear they can, reload with a speed loader just as fast, but unless you're training with that specifically, a mag is just, it's so you drop it, you take your other mag, pop it in, and like you're ready to go. Whereas the Webley,
you need sleight of hand.
Yeah, you have to break it open, and then if you have a speed loader, you can drop it in there and just get it. But on average, those are slower than a magazine change.
Here's a cool fact about break action revolvers. Whenever you do, you probably won't see it on the camera at all, but when you pull it back, it actually auto ejects every round that was in there, the cartridges. So these are actually sometimes more efficient for speed loading.
Yeah.
Now, this test to me on the outside looks very, very simple, but I actually think it's one of the most intriguing tests they do on this show. This is essentially the most similar test to a military drill that I have seen. This is something very common that would take place in the military, where you go door to door, not knowing what's next, and have a split-second decision to decide, is this an enemy? Is this, a civilian? And the smoke adds kind of just a replication of fog of war, of, disorienting your senses a little bit. And this is where Sonny's training compared to Scotty's not that great training really shows. This is not a test of gun versus gun. This is a test of just Sonny versus Scotty, and it really shines. And like I said, Sonny puts 3 to 4 rounds per target in there, right where it's supposed to be, which is a bit excessive. But he was really showcasing the fact of why revolvers were kind of replaced by semi-automatic handguns.
Yeah.
Because the round capacity and the easiness of reloading. And they just they don't even mention that. I think Max does later, but they glance over it. The fact that Scotty put like 1 round per target versus Sonny put like 4.
And if they made Scotty reload, you would notice like how much slower, because he's definitely hasn't trained with speed loading a revolver at all. So he would be going like he would be taking forever. And it also showcases an advantage, having a bigger round, sort of a philosophical thing that has no answer really, but having a bigger round with more stopping power, obvious advantage. But having a smaller round, one advantage is that you can do what Sonny did, which is 3 to 4 rounds in a target. You can shoot it a lot more. You can shoot it a lot quicker without having the discomfort factor of like like having to get lined up on the target again after firing this big handgun round, you can boom, 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 and then like move on to the next room. And 4 rounds of 9mm is not, there's a lot of people not around because of the 9mm. So
they don't. I mean, I'm thinking like big brain stuff here too, but they don't even talk about the muzzle velocity versus like the penetrative power, where that the 9mm
penetrative power.
Where the 9mm
Tetsuro's getting uncomfortable right now.
The 9mm is traveling essentially twice the speed, where it might not be as big of a piece. Yeah, there's a lot they could address here that they didn't. But I do think this is a very interesting test, but not a very good Deadliest Warrior test.
No, because Scotty is obviously outclassed.
Yeah, he's just his like lack of.
They should have had a beer drinking competition. See, Scotty would probably win that against Sonny.
But I was surprised that they used this this actually military type drill.
How many nachos can you eat? Sonny would be like, or Scotty would be like, "Oh, I got you."
Hot dog eating contest.
Yeah.
The key is to dunk the bread in the water.
All I'll say is, I think this is really up to someone's preference. Some guys like revolvers with bigger calibers. If I had to shoot a bear, I would certainly rather have something like a Webley. But I think at the end of the day, a magazine offers a faster reload, and I do agree with the Edge. It's a more modern gun. So
I agree. I love revolvers. I love what they are, but there's a reason they were phased out in military and police. I agree with the Edge.
Whenever you're ready for the reenactment, Craig, I've got a synopsis planned here.
An item for my Steam wish list is on sale.
Nice. What's on sale?
I always wanted to try out that game Squad. It seemed like fun with a bunch of people. It's like, do you ever play it, Brendan?
It's good. Brendan's giving us the thumbs up.
We'll have to play it. Yeah, it's like, what's the premise, Brendan? I know this isn't a pretty good podcast, but
what is it? You just it's like a milsim kind of thing.
Oh.
Yeah,
dude, it's Spetsnaz versus IRA in.
Did you say Mil Sim?
Yeah, moving on to the Mil Sim.
Yeah.
So, Matt, take it away, and then we'll get into some of my comments.
We get, in my opinion, the best reenactment we've had to date. So again, this is filmed. So even though it's the Spetsnaz and the IRA, this carries over from the tone of the IRA Taliban reenactment.
The Looney Tunes cartoon.
It is filmed in the tone of a Looney Tunes cartoon. It's like a Tom and Jerry episode. So it starts out. The Spetsnaz are just kind of walking down the road in broad daylight, and one has a backpack, and they're doing like that fake tactical walk that the stunt actors were taught, like where they're like walking like this, like.
The one literally at one point is like,
yeah. And one of them has a cute little backpack, which does come into play. The IRA, meanwhile, there's one lookout on the rooftop.
It's the lookouts.
Yeah. It's the Peter Crow lookout.
Yeah.
There's one lookout on the rooftop who is sitting in plain view. Like the Spetsnaz would see him from a mile away. He's in a camo jacket on a roof.
Also, I'll put this in the edit. He is a 90% chance this is Cade Corley from Surviving Disaster, Spike alum, also around on TV at the same time as Deadliest Warrior. I'll put it side by side.
He could be making a cameo in another Spike show. Yeah.
It's almost like they don't have that much budget and recycle their actors.
So the IRA lookout is up there, and he's just chilling there, and he sees the Spetsnaz, and he's like, "Oh no!" So he kneels down, he shoots, and he kills one of the Spetsnaz guys. 4 on 5 at this point. The Spetsnaz scatter, they get into cover, they finally remember their training, and they all get into cover, and the IRA takes another shot, and it hits a tree and misses. At this point, we cut to the 4 IRA guys inside. It's like a warehouse or like a school or something. Like 4 IRA guys, they're all hanging out, doing IRA things like making bombs and stuff, and they're all in their uniforms. So they all are wearing balaclavas, just hanging out.
It's like Squid Game, where they're all like dressed up and no one knows each other. It's like
they're all just hanging out with each other, like in their masks and
the one
jackets.
guy's like, "Man, I'm so tired of Steve. Wait, I am Steve." I mean,
damn, I'm sweating and itching under this thing. They're all hanging out. One's like making a nail bomb, which is pretty funny. It's like what they do. They don't play video games. They're like, hey, we got any Semtex?
Make more bombs.
Show that guy again with that pipe, putting the nails in it and going.
One guy's messing with a flamethrower, and the other guy's like, so what's in that tank? And he's like, that's similar to napalm.
So we got a little, you got a little gasoline. Similar to napalm? Yeah, similar to napalm.
So these guys hear the gunshots outside, and they all start looking at each other like, oh shit. I bet you it's the Russians. I don't know why the Spetsnaz are in Ireland, but they are. And and so the Spetsnaz guys start getting ready, like they start getting their guns, or the IRA guys start getting ready. The Spetsnaz sniper with the Dragunov takes off his little backpack, sets it on the ground, props his sniper, and kind of crawls up, takes aim at the rooftop IRA sniper, who for some reason is pulling back the lever on his G3 every time to shoot, even though it's a semi-auto gun. Kills him. Boom. Rolls down the hill. So this point is 4-on-4. Spetsnaz go in through the front door. There's a shootout. Miraculously, nobody is hit. And then the second funniest shot. Actually, let's say the third funniest shot in this reenactment happens. The Spetsnaz guy shoots the ceiling above the IRA guy. Some tile falls down from the ceiling, hits his AR, and it jams. He looks back at the camera and goes, it's jammed. Gun's jammed.
I'm pretty sure he like took out the pin and he has like the AR like broken down where he's looking at the bolt for some reason.
No, I think he just pulls back on the charging handle a couple times and he's like, oh, it's jammed. And he throws it. And then he calls his guys to start running. Everybody starts running away. So important to note that the nail bomb guy took his nail bomb with him. So as they're running away, one of the Spetsnaz guys takes an RGD-5, tosses it into a room, kills an IRA guy in a terrible CGI explosion. Then we see an IRA guy drop a nail bomb into a trash can as he's running out of the room. 2 Spetsnaz commandos are pursuing him. One gets outside the door, shoots the IRA guy, but he manages, through the pain, to click the button on the remote, detonating the nail bomb, knocks both of the Spetsnaz over, killing one of them, and they zoom in on his face, and it's just riddled with nails.
Shame he won't get that paycheck that he was working for.
That pension that he's been working for. So the Spetsnaz guy that did not get killed by the nail bomb follows the blood trail. He gets ambushed by the IRA guy. They start fighting. He gets his ballistic knife out, kills the IRA guy. He's sitting there, he's smiling, he's celebrating, when all of a sudden, terrible CGI fire starts coming on in the background. The music intensifies, and we see our Spetsnaz guy literally sweating. So what does he do with all of his training, all of that elite years of training to react logically under pressure? He runs into a room with no exit and sits down in a chair for the second best shot of the reenactment. The IRA guy turns his flamethrower on him and just fills the room up with flame. The Spetsnaz guy comes in and sits down in an office chair and goes, oh.
He's over there, he pulls his paycheck out of his pocket and he's like counting the money.
Yeah, he's like, you can kill me, but you'll never have this much cash. Gets burned alive. And then we get the best shot of the reenactment. The IRA carrying the flamethrower zooms in on his face. He gives a smug little smile, and we can see that he's got a very prominent mustache. Turns around, and what does he see? A Spetsnaz commando with a Sega shotgun. Points it point blank at his face. Zooms in on his face again, and you can just hear what he's thinking. My mustache.
I'm glad that the Spetsnaz, instead of just taking the shot from like 30 meters away, I'm good. It's wabbit season.
Sneaks up and blows this IRA guy's head into chunks.
CGI chunks.
So for anyone keeping count, we are now at 2 Spetsnaz, 1 IRA. So the IRA that's left is the guy whose AR-15 got jammed up at the beginning.
It's jammed.
And So 2 Spetsnaz, they go into what looks like a men's locker room or a shower or something. It's like a bathroom. There's showers and toilets in there. The first Spetsnaz guy walks in, gets shot, immediately dead. So now it's a 1v1 baby. Assuming it's our previously surviving IRA guy, and we know that it's our boy, Spetsnaz guy, or as I like to call him, Shrek. So Shrek makes his way, and him and the IRA guy are trading shots with the Makarov and the Webley. But what happens? The Webley runs out of ammo. Like a cartoon. It's like they watched the episode. Spetsnaz guy, again, doesn't shoot him from like 10 feet away. Walks up, puts his gun right underneath the head, blows his head off. The IRA guy lands on a toilet before the Spetsnaz guy turns around and says, "Ya Spetsnaz." Do you want a note? I read this on Wikipedia. Wikipedia fact.
So it's fact.
This is the only Deadliest Warrior episode where one of the warrior's weapons is not even shown in the reenactment. Did you guys remember seeing the slingshot?
No, but I'm glad they didn't.
The show wanted to get rid of it too. Yeah. So
the child's toy turned deadly.
That's my favorite reenactment just because of how stupid it is.
Yeah. This reenactment, I think, is definitely like memeier and funnier than the ancient one.
Yeah. All right. Results, Craig?
Let me put the game away.
Greg is so interested.
He's checking his fantasy team.
All right. So totals, Spetsnaz win with 736 kills. Oof. Dragunov gets 120. AK-74, 472, which is really extreme for a weapon or a
obviously
firearm.
Their main gun, pretty much.
RGD-5 gets 7, Sega gets 92, Makarov gets 20, Ballistic Knife gets 6.
472, I just want to point out, still not as many kills as the Twin Hooks.
That's true. The IRA, HK gets 47 kills, AR-15 gets 175 kills, Nail Bomb gets 20, the Flamethrower gets 11, the Webley gets 8, and the Slingshot gets 3 for a total of 264 kills. So
right at the top, I don't think we need to talk about the results that much. Spetsnaz wiped the floor with them. But right at the top, before we talk about anything, I have to get this in. This is an ancient piece of trivia from the show. Somehow scrubbed from the Wikipedia entry, I noticed. A little bit of a cover-up, but it's still on the Deadliest Warrior wiki, I believe. Gentlemen, if you add up the total kills of the Spetsnaz, it does not equal 736. It equals 717, which if you add 717 to 264, the IRA's side their math is done right. That only equals 981 kills. It does not equal 1,000. So if you were ever looking for a smoking gun that they just make these numbers up and write them down.
Well, you know,
Here it is, because kills are. This isn't like somebody fucked up the totals, because 736 and 264 equals 1,000. But if you add up the Spetsnaz kills from their weapons, it equals 717. So somebody mistyped weapon kills. Now it's easy to ignore in this one because it's such a landslide, anyways, that it doesn't matter. But.
Well, I actually was going to, before that, I was going to say the opposite, that this is such a landslide. It might be evidence that the sim is real because they would probably fake it to make it seem closer. But that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, right?
Well, what's crazy to me about this is
it a typo or is it rigged? If it's a typo, I don't know how it's a typo because somebody got weapon totals wrong on the Spetsnaz side. Like, there obviously needs, if the IRA side is right, which the math is right, it does add up to 264. If that side is right, then the Spetsnaz should have 736 total kills. So they fucked up the math on the Spetsnaz side. There needs to be like a little under 20 kills like that they need to add onto that somewhere. Just give them to the AK-74.
Yeah. If this sim is real for this one, and a lot of these guns are called even, and they do not have even kills like the AK and the AR. There's no way they didn't incorporate training in.
Yes. Yeah, I'd say, well, what do I always say on here with the modern matchups? It's like weapons, training, and then context. I usually say they strip away all relevant context because they do when it's an even fight. But I would say the context of Deadliest Warrior being 5-on-5 actually benefits the Spetsnaz because the IRA are guerrilla fighters, and this show strips away any like guerrilla strategy. Like you can't run away, you can't hide. You know, like you're in a 5-on-5 fight.
And the Spetsnaz, they fight in a phalanx, right?
Yeah. And then of course Spetsnaz, even if the weapons you want to argue are similar, the Spetsnaz have superior training. So you're gonna kill Baby Yoda.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess what I'll do, I'll leave it at this. I think this is a good wrap up. Scotty Collins has a great quote. He says, I don't know how the Spetsnaz won today, but it happened.
Thank you, Scotty.
Like it's like the Super Bowl or something, and like his team got blown out. Yeah, so
he went into this 1,000% believing there's no way the IRA can lose.
Yeah,
it doesn't even make sense if they lost.
There's no way I'm going to lose my $1 million either. Yeah, so.
Well, whether it's 736 or 717, it's the biggest beatdown in Deadliest Warrior history.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like arguing with it because Spetsnaz probably would wipe the floor with the IRA. And, you know, frankly, I don't want the IRA to win against Spetsnaz.
This isn't even Russian military against the IRA.
No.
This is Russian special forces against the IRA.
In a 5-on-5. Like,
yeah, it's special forces against like a guerrilla trained group.
The only IRA weapon that outscores the Spetsnaz weapon is in explosives.
Yeah, that's even debatable. They just give it the edge for whatever
20 to 7. But
yeah, kind of a really.
How much can we trust these stats even though because the math is all fucked up? So
it's been said this is just a bad matchup.
Yeah,
they didn't have any better matchup.
Yeah, they had to do this. I'll tell you what excited me about the modern matchup. I guess we can go into like Back for Blood and review here. I loved this concept because I was like, I remember all season 2, I was just so excited to see season 2 Back for Blood. And they changed up like the format for season 3 and everything. So they didn't end up doing it because they moved to like a new sim and everything. But I was
max leaves and everything.
I was like, oh, you know, come on. You cannot tell me at home you weren't waiting for Navy SEAL versus Spetsnaz.
Yeah.
I was waiting for it. That was the redemption round. That was part 2. So
how did they not have like a cumulative series where like the winners of like each season go on against the winners of like this season's Back for Blood, and they have the finals and like this big bracket? It would have been good.
I know. And all I can say, I've mentioned this a couple times, so I won't go super far into it. I just kind of saw this as an opportunity for like a future direction that the show could have taken, like an alternative direction when they ran out of ideas for one-on-ones. This is a direction they could have taken, like not even just a round robin idea of like, well, who's Deadliest Ancient guy? Because that only gets you so many matchups. But just the idea of bringing back old warriors, like how about redoing episodes?
Yeah.
I mean, I've wanted to redo the damn show myself. I've always said if I win the lottery, I'll redo it.
Hey, Spike, hit us up. We'll be your host
Paramount.
for season 4.
Elon Musk.
Yeah, Spike TV doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Hey, Paramount.
How about Elon Musk hit us up? Or, if Elon Musk hates the show, Grimes, hit us up. We'll redo the show together. So we'll get back at him.
On that note, that's pretty much all I got. No other notes for me.
What do you think, Lucas?
I think
could the pirate have won?
Yeah. The pirate is essentially the special forces of the sea.
How would they kept calling him Delta Force in that episode. How would the pirate have done against the Spetsnaz?
That's it. That's all we have for today.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess now we're going to get into our segment for our DVD giveaway.
The getaway.
The getaway trip if you want to go to Mexico. The DVD getaway.
We're gonna do a little live drawing here, and it's gonna be right on.
Yeah,
It's gonna be you in a hotel in Cancun watching Deadliest Warrior season 1.
Yeah. So
we'll invite you to where we live, and you can watch it on our couch.
Season 1, maybe not that, but season 1 wrap up. We put in there that we're doing a DVD giveaway. It's too late now if you're watching this. It's too late to enter now.
Bum, 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 bum.
But if you liked, commented, and subscribed on that video, you were entered in the contest. However, some of the entries were Xenu Games members. I'm sorry, guys. I know you're like big fans, but we cut you out. If you want, just go buy the DVD.
You can't win the DVD if you've been on the show.
Yeah, exactly. You can't win the DVD if you've been on the show. So, eliminating all those, we had 6 entries.
Let me check current now, just in case.
Why don't you read us the non-Xenu Games entries? I'll get the bingo wheel of majesty here. So, there are 6 contestants. Lucas just double checked for us, and we are gonna like do an outro here, cut, and then stick like a separate video on at the end where we pick the winner.
Yeah, just stick around right after the ending, and we're gonna do the live drawing.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, subscribe, leave a like, comment, let us know. Could the knight have beaten the Spartan? And was the pirate done dirty?
Yes.
All right. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Hey, thanks for all your support also out there. Everyone who watches every week, looks forward to it.
Thank you. Gonna be even better.
Yeah. We will see you in episode 1 of season 2, SWAT versus GSG 9,
where the set might look even a little better. See you there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for the Back for Blood special. We are about to unveil who wins the Deadliest Warrior Season 1 DVD. We got our bingo wheel here. Our resident Spetsnaz, Matt, is going to be spinning it.
Yeah,
we got
Spetsnaz.
our notebook with the bingo balls. Matt, would you do the honor? Go ahead and pull us one.
We had 6 contestants. We got 6 bingo balls here, and we wrote names and corresponding numbers. So let's get to spinning. So it goes this way. Got to spin it up a little bit.
Oh, put the Deadliest Warrior song.
I just thinking the same thing.
Whoa.
Oh, shit.
Oh, man. Here we go.
So the winning ball is N33.
N33.
Who is our winner?
Congratulations to Liam. Won the Deadliest Warrior Season 1.
Oh.
Commented, did his part.
What was his comment? What was his comment?
Here, let me,
Was he the Baby Yoda versus Gremlin guy?
No, anyone who put Baby Yoda, yeah, you weren't entered in.
You were entered, okay. You are my children.
You guys know me. You've seen my comments. You know I want that DVD. I can assure it will be given a fantastic home right next to my Red Letter Media.
Oh, it's disrespectful. What'd you call?
Red Ledia.
Red Ledia.
All right. Well, let it be known I was rooting for one of the Baby Yodaites, and Craig, you were rooting for Real Shino, I think. But you know,
there we go.
Liam, most original comment goes to Liam, and the DVD also goes to Liam.
Sounds like it's going to be a good home. So you'll be getting a message probably before this video even goes up. So
we'll like DM you, Liam, and try to get a shipping address. So. Alrighty.
Hey, thanks for everyone who entered. Thanks for participating. We'll do something again like this in the future.
Absolutely. Maybe we'll just insert a bunch of beeps as I go. Illegally pirate season 2 onto a DVD. No, legally burn. Never mind. I'm not going to say anything on camera. Maybe we'll do something for season 2. You never know. So do some sort of giveaway. All right, guys.
Just like a blank CD at this Deadliest Warrior season 2.
Maybe we'll do something custom.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Y'all take care out there. Have a safe Halloween if you're watching this in real time. It's probably past Halloween.
Check out the Pretty Good podcast.
And Liam, congrats on the DVD, bro.
Yeah, congrats, man.
All right. We will see you guys on the next episode. Peace.